All right. Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Learning Tech Talks, where we're exploring the landscape of learning technology while cutting through the fluff to get the questions answered you need answered to build out your digital ecosystem. Today, I'm joined with John Hudson and Tara Ellis from LumaOne, and we're talking about the power of interactive video. And for those of you who are joining us live, be sure to give us a thumbs up, share, tag in somebody who's with us as we get going here. But before we get going, okay, we've got to ask our question of the week. and I played an audible. I threw a curveball. I had a very kind of blah question, but I changed it up. And so I'm very interested to hear. I know what the answer won't be for Tara, but I don't know what the answer will be. So for this one, what fashion trend do you think needs to be brought back? So John, let's start with you because I know you were struggling with this one. So
I know, but I've been thinking about it, and I've got this great flowered shirt.
Okay.
On my cover, and I haul it out once a year and wear it. And people say, are you wearing a tablecloth, right? But my flowered shirt, I want that to be back in fashion. That's my
okay.
If it ever was
flowered shirt.
I'm sorry?
Is it like a Hawaiian flowered shirt?
No. Very special flower shirt. Lots of, like very floral, and it may never have been in fashion. That's the point.
Okay, so maybe it actually wasn't a fashion trend.
Exactly, maybe it wasn't. I'm trying to make it one, which won't happen, right? That's
it. Definitely trying to make it one. Okay, well, let's see. Maybe if when we have you back, you can wear it, and we'll get a chance.
I'll do that, definitely.
Okay, there we go. We'll commit to that. How about you, Tara?
Well, I had to think about this. I'm not sure if everyone remembers these, but they were a hypercolor outfit. They surf style. It was almost a metallic, and they changed color with your body temperature.
Oh my word!
The only
remember you'd go like, and it would change.
That's true.
Yes, and you'd have to fly and maybe like blow on you. But it's entertaining, I found, because certain things would heat up. Like if you were under pressure, you could see the material changing color. So it's just an entertainment factor. I think they should bring it back, and maybe somebody wear it during an interview or something.
Bring back the normal corporate version of it. That'll be button downs and blouses, so like your armpits change color from your. Yeah, I like it. Let's bring this back.
The mood shirts.
If anybody from the fashion industry is watching, you've heard the request now. Flowered tablecloth shirts, and I remember them though. You always did. You sat and went like that to everybody your shirt.
Unbelievable.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think one of the weirdest ones that I always liked. I had a bunch of those pants that zipped off, and I thought they were the greatest thing ever. It was too hot. You just zipped off the legs, and that was it. You didn't have to say, "Shoot, I'm warm. I need to go find a pair of shorts." You just said, "Bingo! I'm just going to take the bottom of my pants off, and I'm done." There we go.
Yeah.
Great.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's get to the actual learning technology portion of this. And for those who haven't heard of LumaOne, really the focus is on interactive video, and we'll dig into more what that is. But from both of you, one of the things I'd love to hear more is what inspired you to bring LumaOne to life as you were looking at this and said, there's all these tools, there's all this tech out there, but what really jumped out that you said we can do better, or this is a gap that exists today?
Yeah, I think one of the things, and Tara and I have been together for a number of years, working together, as have a bunch of us on the team. In the last decade, we built a learning content management system, and we're always trying to help people, bring content together and create meaningful learning activities with it. One of the things that was missing from it was video, of course. Bandwidth constraints in the enterprise, and just generally, out there, it was difficult to run video through pipes.
Okay.
So 4 years ago, we started experimenting with video very actively. And obviously, it's everywhere. It's on these things. We have it in our pocket. We can shoot video. We can view video very easily. So that really became the core of what we wanted to do. We just loved the fact that we could simply bring both content and context together in one place, very, very simply, right? And then we added interactivity to that. So taking our experience, over a bunch of years, actually being able to bring that interactive experience to video made it that much more powerful. We all understand the value of interactivity, what it does to help create memorability and help people gain knowledge. So bringing those two things together, has really been our absolute focus. And it's really created some meaningful results for a lot of businesses and organizations that we've been working with.
Okay. All right. Tara?
Yeah, I think it's just been focuses making it simple.
Okay.
Trying to find a way of making it easier for anyone to access and share and capture knowledge. Share your expertise with your peers. So I think it's been close to 20 years, starting with LCMS and looking at how that can be modernized and just to make it easy for everyone to access and share.
Okay. Well, there's two things based on what you said I'd love to dig into. The first one being the complexity sometimes that people don't understand with video, and you talked about making it simple. And I think there's two sides to that. I think on the development side, as a creator, you look at a video, go, wow, you just put that together, and you don't realize all the elements that go into that. So I'd love to first start with that. You say making that easier. What do you mean by that? Like, is it a content development platform in addition to the deployment? Tell me a little bit more about that.
I think there's two things, and this gets back to some of the challenges that we all face in learning and development. Skills. I think that's it, right? So one of the things that we find challenging is that a lot of organizations don't have skills or have not yet really adapted to video as being a tool for communication. I mean, certainly you do see it happening. Obviously, that's what we're doing today.
Yep.
But generally, it's not mainstream. So there's fewer people doing it. I think if the ratio is kind of 1/9/90 in terms of 1% produce, 9% use, and then 90% view. That's changing quite a bit. Technology is getting simpler, and one of the things that we actively do as a business is we help people use video. So we've actually got a fairly big consulting part of our business, which can help organizations set up for it. Everything from setting up a studio to helping and coaching executives and managers how to use video as a tool. That's important, obviously. Yeah. And of course, there's a real focus on the technical aspects as well. So if you use our web app on a phone, it just makes it super easy. So you pick up your phone, you log in, you take something, it's automatically loaded into our content repository, so you can use it and deploy it. So we're trying to make it easy, trying to take steps away. People aren't having to worry about basic things like transcoding or streaming. It's just all done for them. Okay. And then looking at authoring as another example, it's just super simple. And Tara can show you some of that, but you can't get away from change. I think that's a big thing. Yeah. Every part of the organization's got to get with adapting to the new realities. And video is the mode of communication that we like to use. It really is. And so we all have to get used to doing it and learn how to do it. It's actually quite simple.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up, and Tara, I'd love to get some additional insights from you. And if there is something you can show, I'd be happy to bring it into the feed on that one. But as you talk about that video and needing to be able to adapt and upskill ourselves in many ways to it, because you're right, you don't see this as a mainstream, at least in many organizations, as a mainstream channel of stuff, but it's powerful. I mean, even the people watching this or people I talk to all the time who maybe only know me through video, there's a connection that you can build by actually watching and seeing someone.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I think that with video, you can capture things such as emotion and which resonates with people. So I think I'm a hockey mom, so I had to take some training, and it was super old school CVD training. And as I'm watching this, I just was thinking of so many different ways that you could present this. It's talking about parents and you're yelling at their kids on the screen. Well, a video, and you could show that emotion of how it impacts a child, or you could simply, take out your smartphone and ask a kid, how do you feel when parents are yelling while you're playing hockey or whatever sport? And listening to them, and that would just resonate. It would just have such a bigger impact than me clicking through basic kind of PowerPoint style information. So
yeah. Well, and I'm curious, so you mentioned one of the things that you do with LumaOne or can do is help people make this transition to do that and actually support them through that. Because one of the things I've found over the years is that getting people to create videos and be on video, that's a bit of a culture shift, right? Because it requires people to be comfortable putting themselves out there a little more. And there's some resistance to that. And so getting that started, do you find that, you know, by infusing it, because in theory, and just as an example, in one org, right, we had tried to get people to contribute selfie videos of them doing things, and it didn't take off right away because people weren't comfortable with that. And what we found was successful was by doing some of that initial work up front with leaders or people on that end, that made people feel more comfortable, that then allowed it to grow. Are you seeing similar trends with that?
Yeah, that's what it's all about. I think we make a really significant effort up front. We spend a lot of time with customers, helping them, you know, get into it, you know, shooting content if that's something that we need to help them with as well. You know, we can facilitate that, but that's a big part of it. It's change. That's what it is, and it's always important that it comes from the top down as well. That helps a lot, you know, in terms of helping teams adopt and start to use new technology.
Okay. Yeah. So the other one I wanted to, well, so here's the other one, and then I'll dig into the third. Is we talked about video, and one of the things we talked about before we came live is the reality that in some cases, video can be very limiting to certain regions where high-speed internet, broadband is commonplace, and that's not always a luxury everyone's afforded. How are you, and you can just reshare for everyone else,
Sure,
how are you tackling that?
So one of the interesting things, obviously, that does come up. I mean, there's a lot of organizations that operate in remote parts of the world. You know, military being one, of course. But one of the things that we've done, we've been working with a charity in Zimbabwe. It's actually medically focused charity, and you know the bandwidth going into the rural area that we're working in is very, very limited. Okay. And of course, the actual cell network, the signals are very limited as well. You know, there's a lot of congestion. So what we've actually done is we're packing our product really into an appliance so it will run locally. So that rural area will have experiences that rival what we have right now, you know, in New York or Montreal or London, right? So it's we're very excited about that. That's significant. So they've been learning a lot. Okay, it's a massive equalizer as well.
Okay.
If we're able to take our expertise and bring it to people that just have no access, it's incredible. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's helping doctors mainly, and also patients. That's an important part of it as well.
Okay.
In fact, one of the things we've done with it, we do have a translation facility in our product, so we support a local language called Shona. So it's one of 13 languages we support. So it lets them seamlessly translate it into the native language for that area.
So with the translation, I'm going to jump on that one because that
I knew you would.
You say the word translation, I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Me about that, because that is one of the challenges I have found with videos sometimes, is that it can be difficult or it adds another layer of complexity, especially when you're dealing with it on a global scale. So how do you handle that one?
Yeah, so in the product itself, there's a lot of text-oriented content. Okay. So, for example, you'll augment it with words on the screen. You'll augment it with questions, these sorts of things. So all of those things can be readily translated. And if you have a transcript attached to your video as well, that can be translated as well. Some of the things we're going to be doing in the future are automating transcripts. So then it starts to become kind of a full circle. And the translation quality is excellent. You know, certainly it requires a read through by someone local, but it's really, really seamless. You can go from English to French with probably about 98% accuracy right out of the gate, or any of the other languages we support. So we do the major languages, got 12, and it's very effective, and it really creates this new level of agility. You know, you create things once, and you can use it in so many other places.
Okay. And it's with that, it's right within the tool then, correct?
It is, yeah.
Okay.
It is, and it's dynamic as well. So Tara might show you an example later. Put you on the spot, Tara. I promised it would.
Load it up. Bring it into the stream. I'd love to just get a chance, and I'm sure people watching would love to see some of these things we're talking about. So Tara, you let me know when, and I'll pull it in.
Great. Yeah, anytime.
Okay. Let me see here. So the stream I'm seeing, there we go. Perfect. Let's take a look.
Great. So I'll log in here. I'm in our LumaOne site. I have a number of different examples of content here. So did you want me to jump right into a translation or just show some examples of content to start?
Because we were on the topic of translation, I'd love to just see kind of what that looks like. And again, we'll thread the system in and out as we have a discussion, but let's dive into that one.
Great. Okay, so I have a course here that I've published in English, so we'll just take a look at it. I've added, there's no narration or audio to this course, which lends itself nicely to translation because all of the text is on screen using our system.
Okay.
And see a few, I'll just pop through so you can see a few examples of text. And then what I will do is go to translate the content. So I will search for my espresso video, click on it, and just decide which language. So let's change this to Spanish, for example. Click translate. And then I will go into view all of my existing content, and I will look at updated ad. See, I don't speak Spanish, so
there you go, Pierre, right there.
There we go.
Here we are.
Anybody speaking Spanish can tell us what it says.
Now, this one I created as, so here. I did have a placeholder page there, so it did not do that for the placeholder, but everything else is.
So it was a graphic.
Yeah, it was a graphic.
Okay.
So here, yeah, you see the content is automatically translated.
Okay. So from a scalability, so I mean, that's pretty easy, quite frankly. But so the way this video is working, you're capturing this video, I'm thinking operationally how this is happening. So you're capturing this video or someone's capturing this video of the person doing whatever the activity is, and then you're layering in the text of what's happening. So instead of having, narration of somebody sitting talking through it and having to sit and re-record all of that, it's all being done through text so that it's quick and easy. Is that an accurate summary?
Yep.
Okay. And what are all these little things popping up? Because my next question was going to be the interactive piece. When you say interactive video, how are you defining that? And I'm guessing the little pop-up things that are happening is part of that.
Sure. Yeah. So I'll go back to it. I was in viewing as an author there at that point, but it does bookmark, and I remember where I left off in the video. But as I click through, just some examples of interaction. So I have a basic piece of text with a continue button. Any text that you add, you can also add actions, and I can show that as we look at the authoring side. But here in this example, we have a real-time poll. So it's I see the results of my peers immediately. And I like this course because I love my caffeine. So
coffee is an important part of our lives. Yeah,
it's important.
Very important in this day and age. So this is just an example of a hotspot. So it's asking me to click on the area of the screen. That's the tamper. So I'll click on an incorrect area here. You can have your customized feedback, custom look and feel. And I can click on the correct area of the screen, which is the tamper.
Okay.
Drag and drop. So you can have drag into place. And I should know this off by heart here.
You know how to drink the coffee, but not necessarily make it. That's okay. We'll allow it.
This is
not going to be a barista.
Well, this is actually an onboarding video in our shop, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So as I kind of move through here, this video recreated it's free flow. It's allowing me to jump around if I wish. You can have your interactions pause on the screen so you can check and make sure that your people are actually watching your videos or not actually click and play and multitasking. So click continue here. So this is just asking me to click on the correct button on the machine. So I'll click on the power button. It turns the machine on. Great work. And something that I think is a really powerful feature is the ability to then ask your learners or your viewers to share a video and record it and submit of themselves actually performing that task, or you can use this feature to ask for testimonials after a course that they've taken, share their experiences. So just asking people to pick up their mobile and submit. You can also send this out and maybe collect information from your SMEs in an organization. Has anybody had experience fixing this part of the production line, and send it out, and you get those answers, and then that can become material that you can add a few interactions and publish out to your user group again.
Okay. Now, one of the things that threw me for a loop, and then I cognitively put it together, was when it asked, right, where do you push the button, and then it turned red. It threw me because I'm like, well, wait a minute, did you layer on a different? But it's a video. It's a video of it happening. You just happened to pause it before that light turned on, so that then when you did, okay, got it, yeah.
It's a little authoring trick.
Tripping me out a little bit. But there's a level of authenticity to that. I think that's what that tripped me a little bit, was the fact that, this isn't a picture of a machine. This is somebody actually doing it. Okay. Interesting. So one question I have, I'm gonna bring it out, and then we can bring it back in a minute, is, so with that, and this is one of the things I'm finding with the tech boom in our space, is that sometimes for designers and developers, it can feel like a little bit threatening, like, our world's changing, when really it's not. It's just changing the way that we're doing this. Because as I look at that, you didn't just go shoot a video and then throw it in a platform and say, hey, there you go, we'll see what happens. I mean, there was some thought behind what that was, and design behind what are the stages, right? And is that part of the process as you work with people on this?
We actually work with them in many different ways. Okay. So we do have customers that have existing videos, and then they bring them in, and we look at how we can add those interactions and make it effective. Okay. So we do, and then we do have the other side of things, where we have a storyboard and we think about what interactions we're going to add before we create the video. So we've worked on both sides of that. So yeah.
And it's also, dependent on what you're trying to do. So, for example, oftentimes we have customers that need to respond to something that's quite urgent. So they'll shoot a quick clip. That won't have that's obviously very intentional. But sometimes there's more elaborate productions where it may be branching and scenario based. So there's kind of all different levels of how they'll approach it as well.
Okay. Yeah. So a couple questions have come back in. I knew the translation thing was going to get people all fired up on that one. It always does. So for some of the video that, it may have text or somebody speaking, are you able to put subtitles in that as well? Is that something else that can be added?
Absolutely. So we have full captioning in the product.
Okay. Yeah. And then with this next one, it actually moves into the next space that I wanted to dig into a little bit, is, so what we looked at was the actual author side of it, but it's not just a developer tool for creating this stuff. It's also where the end user can consume it, correct? It's also the end user, yes?
Yes. Yeah. So we have, just to talk to that really quickly. So we've got a range of ways to deliver content. Okay. Certainly we have our knowledge portal, but also many of our customers connect to their LMS or CRM. So there's a lot of different things you can do, and you can also embed content as well, or use social channels. So there's a ton of ways you can actually leverage your content.
Okay. Because that's what I was curious about, is how are people then consuming? So you create it there, but then how are they consuming it? And so they may be using LumaOne. You may be pushing it out to other channels.
Correct.
Got it.
Yeah, a lot of our customers, they say, use a LMS, just using standard learning standards to drive the content.
Okay. Yeah. So then with that, when you have these different language pieces, I'm just thinking operationally how you pull this together, because going back to the language, if people have different languages, I know some of the platforms I've used, you set your preferences and it knows what language you want. So then it's changing which one you're getting based on that. But if you're consuming that through that platform, then that's all being configured on that end. Or can you also do that in LumaOne? So it's a little bit aware of who you are.
Yes. Yeah, sure. I mean, so if I'm a Dutch speaker, it will deliver Dutch content to me.
Okay. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I think that answers the question that came, right, which is based on
Yeah,
who
yeah.
you are, it's recognizing you through SSO, something like that, single sign-on that's recognizing who you are, and then you're getting content based on your preference, if it's there. Got it.
Correct.
Got it.
Yes.
Okay. Yep. So from a use case standpoint, I'd love to just hear what are some of the, where do you really see, because I can see overdoing video, if you go too crazy with it. So what are some really practical use cases where maybe people start small instead of saying, we're going to turn everything we have into video, because that can be just overkill. So where are people starting, or are you seeing trends in where people might be starting saying, hey, we want to do more video. We're not really sure where to start. What are some common things, that people might pick, low-hanging fruit?
Yes, that's a great question. So we see a lot of different things, Tara. We see a lot of greenfield opportunities. So, for example, a couple of the sectors that we spend a lot of time in are healthcare and manufacturing, and we actually see a lot of organizations in those two areas that really aren't very digital at all. Okay. Certainly from a learning content perspective. So really. What we do is we go in and we think it's a really transformative experience, going from something that's largely analog or paper-based, right, to something that's, fully digital. Yeah. So some amazing results. And it's a big cultural change as well. Yeah. So that's it's challenging. I'm not going to not emphasize that. But definitely starting small is a simple thing to do, and organizations oftentimes will do that. So they'll take an initiative, and they'll use our platform for that, and they'll pipe it through their LMS, and slowly build more. So we see it all over the place, video is certainly the way a lot of people like to consume content. So there's obviously pressure to do it, but we think we offer a fairly safe and simple way to onboard to it. So, yeah.
Okay. Anything to add on that one, Tara? Anything specific you see out there?
Well, I've seen, like, we have gone into organizations and, we've taken our team and we help them to get started. We've done all of that front end work for them, and we've helped produce a number of videos that are done professionally, and then given them the skills just to capture as needed. So an example is a manufacturing plant, and we did a first few initial videos, and they've gone in and have captured, a huge amount of content since then, and they've really done exceptional work. Just capturing things such as when something goes wrong on the production line. They'd have pull out a device and capture it, and they add a few interactions, and it's there. So it's interesting to see how people really do adopt.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the example you shared, my head's spinning around, right? That to me seems like just such a natural use of this type of technology, of these like how-to. It's why and I hate everybody out, the YouTube, right? But it's a good analogy here, where it's like people are trying to figure out, how do you do this thing? I just need to learn how to do this thing, and this is a very easy way to dynamically show how to do it in a way that you can capture some of that stuff and make it easier for people versus, a tutorial. And to me, that's really falling into the more performance support mentality than, we're trying to bring you up to speed and here's a 3-hour video on how to do this thing. Instead, it's more, no, here's a nugget on the example you used, how to make I drink coffee, but I don't know how it's made. Some sort of fancy coffee drink. And it's just a nice tutorial on it.
Yep.
Have you had somebody asked a question, and I'm curious, and maybe you can't share who exactly, but have you had a really interesting example where you're like, wow, this is a really unique topic to go through this? Is there one that jumps to mind? I'm actually curious to whoever asked that one.
That's a great question.
You think about it. Yeah. If one pops to mind, let me know on this. But as we go through with this, so we're talking about this. We mentioned, I think before we went live on this, that video hasn't probably fully reached its apex in terms of being mainstream. I think people are trying to get there, or they may mentally be thinking we should be doing more with video, but we aren't there. What do you see as some of the detractors for organizations that you work with that either prevents them from getting there or is holding them back from really being able to reach their full potential with this stuff?
Yeah, I think it would be change. I think that's it. I mean, if you look at the sorts of tools that are typically used in businesses now, authoring tools being one example. They're a lot of organizations are still using a lot of tools that were built early in the last decade, and that's a reality. People know them, they understand them. The audience is used to them. That's just a reality. I think that's one thing. So ramping up and skilling, I think, is a big issue, and it's a brave new world.
Yeah.
There are different things you need to do when you're making video versus what I would say is sort of common e-learning. So it's a different area for sure. Okay. Tara, you have any more color on that?
I would say experience. I think there are organizations that maybe started down this route and they've had, if they've gone into huge productions and it's a high cost, high time, but it doesn't need to be. And I think that's where we really want to have a huge impact. Is it doesn't need to be a huge project. It doesn't need to be a huge cost. It can be easy, and we're really trying to help organizations understand that and remove that fear. So
that's a great example, because oftentimes we'll do something once, and that becomes kind of our view to the world, right? Something I did 15 years ago.
Right. Yeah, I had to do this one executive headshot video, and I paid
$100,000 for it. I'm never doing it again.
$1,000 to do this thing, and so video just isn't going to work for us because we don't have those kind of budgets.
Yeah, I mean, we did some work with a large training organization in New York, and we were converting classroom content to interactive video, and we were absolutely amazed at the results. I mean, it's worked out very, very well, and it was actually massively cost effective from a production perspective, but the learners loved it. The learning experience was excellent. The results they were attaining, were incredible. It was just a very good experience. So it again, as Tara pointed out, costs are much lower than they've ever been for even professional production. And again, we all have a video camera. The quality here is phenomenal. Just with some simple, basic learnings, you can take great video.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah, but it is much more democratized, and I think you hit on two of the big things that I think I see are holding many organizations back from jumping into the digital age. Is it's based on assumptions of what it was like 15, 20 years ago. Well, you can't do that, or it's too expensive, and that's not the case anymore. Or just a misunderstanding of, hey, this does require some reskilling of us as L&D professionals. But again, it doesn't mean our skills aren't relevant. We just have to translate them into into a new thing. So a question came in from Scott. And I know just from my interaction with you all and the platform, you do a lot of work with internal stuff and with customers, right? So there's customer and there's the internal. Do you see a difference in the way organizations are approaching how they're communicating with their internal staff, or is there a difference in how you handle that on an external customer side versus an internal side?
I can jump in.
Yeah. No, I was waiting for you to do that, Tara.
Well, I think it can be more relaxed when it's internal, when it's content that you're sharing internal, and you can really personalize that experience as well. So you have people in your organization, they're bottling up that information. So you really need to make it simple and easy to extract that information from them. You have people, we all have people in every company, that are an expert in a certain topic. So you can, capture that, share it. And there's kind of that celebrity status, like Joe knows how to fix certain piece of machinery. Let's capture him, share it. And I think that makes it more personal for people. They're more engaged. They're more likely to watch it if they know that it's Joe doing a video and I'm going to share it. So it's more relaxed when it's internal, but you can also have that personalized content for your customers as well to really connect with your customers.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and you would hit on that earlier with the really bad hockey mom e-learning before that lacks that connection. And I do feel like so often we overlook the emotional or the feeling side of this. I think so often we're stuck on, I've kind of got a methodology around know, do, feel, right? We get really focused on what do we want people to know? What do we want them to do? But we don't always take into account how do we really want people to feel as a result of this, so there is that connection. And I think that's the ability to reach customers and internal people. You probably have to do it a little bit differently. You can't be quite as off the cuff with your customers, maybe. I don't know. Okay. So we talked about this upskilling thing, and so some questions are coming in about this. When you work with people who maybe are used to using the traditional tools, or that's what they've been doing, or maybe they're just classroom, they've been doing a lot of classroom stuff and haven't started even working in digital content. How easy do you find it working with people to then upskill them, and do you find adoption moves pretty quickly? Talk to me a little bit about that.
From the adoption side, I think of probably the most challenging might be when you come into some of our clients in manufacturing. They may not have any precedent for learning within their organization. So you're going in, and it's a lot of coaching that we might offer upfront. And then we have to really look at their users. People are, everyone has a smartphone. They are on Facebook, TikTok and Snapchat, all of those different apps where they're capturing and sharing videos. So really trying to just make it easy, they always have access to pop it into LumaOne, and it goes to someone and they can review it. So, and also taking away that fear.
Okay.
You may not think what you have, your knowledge is valuable to others, but actually it is. So bring it in, and someone will validate that for you using our system and share it. From
a workflow then, just so is that, and again, there may be different ways you handle this, but from a workflow standpoint, I'm just kind of breaking this down. So from an upskill standpoint, it sounds like if you're working with your SMEs, it's a relatively low upskill capacity, at least from a technology standpoint, because capturing video is pretty standard for people. They know how to do it. They record their kids or themselves doing stuff normally. Now they're just doing it through your app. But with that, then there's the whole helping. You probably have to work with the SMEs, and I think this is just a natural part on how do you create an instructional video? Like, how do you actually articulate that? Then that's not a technology upskill. That's a understanding how to do that. So from there, then that's pushing over to the curation team or the L&D team. And then, are you finding that if they're used to maybe doing typical video editing type stuff, it's a pretty easy jump for them to go, oh, okay, this is how the tool works? I mean, I guess we got a little bit of a chance to see it. I guess we could maybe pull up the authoring side if that's
sure.
Let's pull that.
Sure, I can jump in. I will actually show you. I'll click on a new video here. Let's load one in and add a few interactions. So it is quite easy. It is, I think with our training, in less than an hour, we could have people up and running and knowing how to create all of the different interactions types. So it is a rich authoring tool set, as you can see up here. There's lots of different questions, interactions that we can add. We can add branching and have adaptive capabilities and prescriptive capabilities that you can build in. But it is quite easy. So I've pulled in just a sample video here, and I can stop at any point, and let's add a few interactions. So I'll add, let's look for a logo. I will add our LumaOne logo in here. So save it, and you see it pops onto the screen, drag it into place.
Okay.
And then I can resize just by grabbing the corner here. And then if I want to double click, I can set the time. So this is a logo. I might want it to appear the entirety of the video. So just indicate.
So you don't have to sit and hit pause, play to try and figure out exactly where it is. You actually can do that through there as well.
Yeah, so I have this pretty much going through the entirety of the video, this logo here. And I can move around or press play and then pick a point where I might want to add a polling question. So I'll add one in here. I know that we've been talking about caffeine, so I'll use that as an example.
This microscope is inspecting this latte at a level. we are really getting into the coffee.
We are.
We're analyzing it. Let me think. Dunkin' Donuts. I'm trying to think of different ones here. Don't mind my spelling. So I'm creating a real-time poll, and I can click Save, Close, drag it into place. And maybe I want to add a piece of text near the end. So it's thank you for viewing my course. So you can set templates and defaults all up front so that it's easy for authors. It's I've created content. It all has a certain look and feel. It looks professional, can match my corporate look and feel. I can also add actions to almost all of my content here. So this is a plain piece of text I've added, but maybe let's make this, I could jump it to another video. So allowing
you want to do some branching or you want to do action associated with it, you can.
Yeah, so I'm going to have this actually exit the video at this point. So I'm not even going to go through the rest. Once they hit this mark, the video will exit.
Okay.
So I'm going to save it. And then here's where John had talked previously about being able to share to almost 10 different ways you can share this content.
Okay.
I will share it to our portal, to our onboarding. So click save, and then we can take a look at it.
Okay, so I was seeing the way you package it. You have you could package it as a SCORM package. You could push it out to social.
Absolutely.
So really, it's flexible in terms of where it works. Okay, so and then it's pausing and asking you to do this stuff.
Yeah. So then my logo's on there the entirety of the screen, and then it will exit. So.
Okay. Okay. So in terms of the fact, I'm just going to kind of jump in on this because I've been involved in these workflows many times. This typically is not an easy thing if you're just, trying to get a SME to record something, then telling them, hey, can you take that file off your phone, dump it in a Dropbox folder, and then we're going to try and get it, and then we're going to bring it into our authoring tool. And that can be overwhelming. So I can see, while I would say I'm relatively technical, looking at that is something that even I would say a non-technical person could very comfortably do. So, that's my opinion watching it. So, okay.
Yeah, well, I think one of the important things you hit on too is, if the SME picks up their phone, opens our web app, takes it through the web app, it's in that list of content that Tara showed you automatically. So you just click on the video and you augment it with whatever interactivity you want to add, and then distribute it. It's quite simple.
Okay. And then I think one of the big things with this whole approach is you're leveraging because one of the comments that came in is it can feel overwhelming for learning and development to create all that content, to try and create all that content. And it's true. That's a mindset shift in saying, you know what, we as L&D don't need to create all the content. It's not our responsibility to create everything. Let's leverage the power of the people actually doing the work to create this stuff. And I think I had an interesting conversation with someone the other day, and we were talking about learning in the flow of work and how often we create learning that has nothing to do with the work because we don't really know what the work is, and being able to capture that from people doing it is a powerful piece. Interesting. Any other so here's the other one I want to dig into, because we're getting close to time. And so I'm very curious, you talked about like the poll, it shows like, here's what your peers are doing that. Let's talk a little bit about the data or the analytics behind some of this, because I know that's something on the site that you talk about, your ability to capture some of that. How is that working? Is that something that then there's an analytics side behind all this stuff where you can get the data on what people are doing or how they're performing with all this stuff? Talk to me about that.
Absolutely. So the application is actually really data rich. So really you can capture as much or as little about the user's journey as you'd like. So it can be as simple as completing a video, all the way down to item analysis, and understanding how people are answering questions, both individually and on aggregate. So there's a tremendous amount there, and of course it's things like geographic data. There's a lot there. So really, it can be as much as you'd like, or it can just be simple completions. It just depends on what you're looking for, but it's all there. So we've built this to be data rich. And again, it's easy to use our reports, but you can also attach any kind of BI tool to it, or business intelligence tool, or every report in the system has Excel export or spreadsheet exports. You're able to extract the spreadsheet and use the data any way you'd like.
Okay. So with that, and maybe we can pull up the analytics side, because I'd love to just see some of this stuff if we have that, Tara, so we can talk a little bit about it. One common, I'm going to ask it just more as a confirmation. Now, if you're packaging that as a SCORM package and then plopping it in your LMS, you're going to lose a fair amount of that, correct? Because then once it's in the SCORM package, you're just getting the yes and no.
One thing to understand about the system too, so it's kind of a dynamic SCORM launch. So it's bidirectional. So the content still is streaming off LumaOne.
Got it.
You actually you're getting the data you need in your LMS at once, but you're also getting the data in our product. So
it is bidirectional then.
It's bidirectional, yeah. So the nice thing is that if you want that deeper level of analysis, you can absolutely get it within our product.
Okay, so that's still tracking, because that's an important thing. And I see things like that before where there's really cool analytics and it has all this stuff, and then you plop it into a SCORM package and you lose all that because all you end up with is they did it or they didn't do it. But if it's bidirectional, then that analytics is still going back to LumaOne, and you can capture that if you need to. Okay.
Absolutely.
Good clarification, because otherwise I would have said, okay, well, that makes sense. All right, let me pull in the analytics piece if we can go to it, because I'd love to see some of the reports or the dashboards that we can see about it. And obviously, right, it goes back to a lot of the design that you're putting into the video to be thinking through these things ahead of time so that you're doing it. But I'd love to see how it actually reports that out.
Great. So I'm sharing now it's a dashboard view of top courses, top polling question, user activity by location. So this is just one of our sites that we have here. And something that's nice, that we go right down to the question level. And you can look at activity and how people answer certain questions, the number of attempts, and really drill down into those into that question. Okay. One thing that I'd mention is a nice example. We had a client that had a finance course, and publishing it out, they were able to see and look at the results, and people were struggling on a certain question, and it was around reverse journal entries. Anybody in accounting and finance, it's probably a second nature, but this was a course that's specific to managers, non-financial managers. And so the client was able to look at that and look at those results and then go back and add additional supporting material. And you could see the stats going up on that question.
Okay.
Well,
that's a good pragmatic example of what some of this question level type stuff can do for decision making, not only in, okay, now we know where real problems are because people aren't understanding this concept, but also from a content development standpoint to know where really should we be investing our time in developing additional resources.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that's an important point as well, Christopher, is that even though it's video and we look at this as being kind of one piece of content, the tools that we certainly offer let you go back and easily edit it as well. So it's not just editing the video itself, it's augmenting it with additional content. So the question that Tara brought up, reversing journal entries, you can go back and you can add additional content. It might be something that you would take with a webcam or a voiceover directly in the platform, just to add some clarification to it. So there's lots of opportunities to tune content.
Well, and what I'm thinking as I'm looking at this, some of where my head's at is I know that, I was talking to Kevin Yates the other day, and, we were talking about measurement. And I think sometimes it feels overwhelming for L&D to jump into the measurement thing. But to me, this looks like a natural jumping off point to say, hey, we can at least start capturing some more fundamental data around, right? What are people doing? Where are they struggling still? How are they performing in this? This can lead right down from a maturity standpoint to a more robust, as you said, you can now put this to a business intelligence platform. You can, I'm guessing, push this out to an LRS, something like that, where you can then combine all this data with other data to get a bigger picture. But it's a good natural starting point for this versus feeling like you have to do everything all at once.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Okay. And with this stuff, are any, again, interesting things that you've come around where people have really been able to pull some insights? Obviously, there was that finance question where they were able to detect, like, hey, this really was an area. Any other interesting insights you've had customers really be able to diagnose, whether regionally, whether content-wise, as a result of this?
Are you going, John?
You're going to go.
Well, just with our branching capability, it's interesting. You could see where people's level of interest is. So we had an example where you were able to branch through different scenarios and really create your own path as an end user. So it was interesting from the administration side. You could go in and see a report and see where people were actually interested, and there was, a lot of people would go in the same place. They go to certain topics or videos. And then you could also see people searching on specific topics. So you can really understand what people are interested in, and then, maybe build out more in that area. So that's just an example that kind of comes to mind, but it was around the branching and people creating their own journeys and then really understanding where they were going.
Okay. Got it. Shoot, I had another question I was going to ask you on this one. So from a content management standpoint, so we've talked a little bit about the analytics. We've talked about some of this interactive video stuff. From a content management, keeping all of that organized, in the early stages, I imagine it's, you have a few videos, it's pretty easy. But as that library builds and you start to do that from a maintenance standpoint, how are people managing, keeping content fresh, so it's not stagnant? They're filtering some of this stuff out, and also organized so that they don't just end up with this massive library of stuff that nobody really knows what to do with.
Sure. So reuse is a big part of what we have. And maybe Terry, you could just show a quick example of that.
Yep, I will. I can go back into that video that I just created. So I'll jump in here. And if I wanted to reuse an existing, let's say reuse an existing image, so just search for my list. I can also search by subject. So all of my content as an author, I can organize it into certain subjects, whether this is kind of set up as an organizational structure. But
like taxonomy.
Okay.
Yeah, taxonomy. But I'll just leave it as an open search on images, and I can look through my library of images here and just reuse something. So I'll bring in. You can
have your taxonomy, but if for some reason you can't find it using that because somebody put the wrong tag on it or something like that, you're still able to then pull up what's available.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So
okay.
I'll bring in the we have an image of Gates and Steve Jobs. Bring that in.
The analogy is getting really trippy right now. In the lab, we're looking at the coffee through a microscope. Steve Jobs and our team are coming in to help figure out how this is all going to work. Some venture capital investment.
Yeah. I won't be using this video after.
Yeah. Okay. So that's where, Tara, at the beginning, you said you had some background in LCMS piece. That's you can see really the underpinnings of an LCMS behind this from a managing all of these raw materials that go into any of these videos you're creating. So instead of having shared drives or external hard drives, thumb drives, where all this stuff is sitting, it's not only solving the problem of creating this, but you're also solving that problem of managing all of the content that goes into it, if I'm seeing it correctly.
Yeah, and it can be as rigorous as you need. So you can set it up to be, have your taxonomy and have a practice where people are storing things against that taxonomy. But if you have users that don't use that, you can still use the system. It's not a requirement unless you want it to be.
Okay.
Everything you add is tagged as well, so you search and reuse. So you can have a resource library of things that you will use in a multitude of videos, like logos and buttons and those sorts of things.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So the last question I have, and then we're coming up on time, is I'm just from when you're seeing organizations that are leveraging this or tapping into this, are you finding people are kind of sunsetting the way they've done things and completely moving over to this from a content standpoint? Are they using it as an augmentation? How are people leveraging that in that bigger ecosystem of content and resources that they're creating?
It's really a mix and match.
Okay.
Certainly, video I think is in the forefront of many people's minds these days, and I think it's where we want to go. Obviously, I think a lot of us for sure. So again, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of the times it starts with a few initiatives or an initiative, and with the idea that it will be mainstream. I think that's it. And also companies are looking at ways to leverage enterprise video technology that may exist already in the organization. So it's something that we also work with. So we can, sit on top of tools they may already have in house. So it makes it simple for them, to adjust to it. Yeah. Tara, any more color on that?
Yeah, I think, we do have clients that have a huge investment in what they've created in the past. We can, be an extra piece to support that. We also have tools in LumaOne that help you if you have, PowerPoints. You can batch import them into the system and convert those into videos, add interactions, make them more engaging, more interesting, and publish. So we can support people that have that. A lot, a huge investment in place that they're looking to augment, or this can be, a fresh start for someone and they create everything they need in LumaOne.
Okay. Well, yeah, I have, and just having been all over the place in terms of, different organizations from different sizes, everybody's in a different step in their journey. So some may be massive global organizations that have huge libraries of stuff that they're already using or ways of doing it. And I can see where that could feel overwhelming to say, oh, we can't just move everything over all at once, where it sounds like some of these other customers maybe somebody that doesn't have this stuff or is just starting to tread into this and saying, hey, we need something that can help us. And that's where the fact that it has the workflow, it has the content management, it has the video capability and the content development deployment. I mean, it really is a full suite if you chose to use it that way. And it sounds like not everybody is using it that way, but from a capability standpoint, you could.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, we are right at the top of the hour, so I just want to say this has been fun. I know this has been a while in coming, so I'm glad we had the chance to talk about what it is and get a chance to see it in more detail. Through and through. I know there are loads of questions that came through, and I think we had a chance to answer them all. But for those of you watching who maybe had a question that didn't get answered, feel free to continue commenting, and the team here will continue looking at that and getting those questions answered. But I just want to say thanks so much for being here for another episode of this. It was great chatting with you. Any final kind of comments, things before we go?
I think definitely from our point of view, no question about it. If you're not using video, it's a journey that should be started. And there are a lot of organizations out there to help you. There are, certainly our company would do that, but there's agencies. It's not a scary step. It really, and you can do it incrementally. It doesn't have to be big bang. It can be, gradual. And the results that you can achieve with it, I think, are really, really phenomenal.
That's a great kind of ending to that. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I'm trying to do through this show is help make this feel less scary. It doesn't need to be overwhelming and terrifying. And from what I saw today, there's certainly an opportunity to be able to step into this pretty easily, to be quite honest with you. So thanks for sharing it.
Terrific. Thank you very much. It's great.
All right. Well, thanks for being here, John. Thanks for being here, Tara. And thanks everybody for watching. Have a great weekend.
You too. Enjoy your weekends.
Bye-bye.